The performances in Some Like It Hot are amazing, but I have to say the film is quite slow. It really picked up in kind of the final third, maybe even the second half of the film, but it did take quite a while to get anywhere. Some Like It Hot was released in 1959, directed by Billy Wilder, and of course stars Marilyn Monroe and Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. And this is a very, very much loved film. It's got 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a phenomenal rating. So I had been putting it off because although it sounded intriguing, I was kind of nervous I wouldn't like it. Thankfully, I did like it, but I don't think it's perfect, mainly because of the pacing. The narrative, in a nutshell, is about two male musicians, which is important, witness something, and this gang or mob does something and they witness it, and they decide to run away and disguise themselves as females in this female band. Of course, Sugar, played by Marilyn Monroe, is also in this band. And there are several things at play here. The first question, I guess, is will they ever be caught by this mob who obviously want to do them in because if they've witnessed this crime, then they're going to worry that they're going to report them to the police. The second question is, will they ever be found out that they're not females by anybody in the band? And the third, of course, is the romantic aspect. And I won't say exactly which characters start to fall for which characters, but when you've got two men dressed as women and the potential of at least one of them falling in love with a female character who doesn't know that they're men, it makes the romantic aspect very complicated. And that aspect of it I did think was quite fascinating. I had no idea what direction it was going to take. And honestly, I feel like it was quite predictable. Josephine and Daphne, who are the female names for the male characters dressed as women, are really interesting characters. And I have to say the performances from Tony Curtis, who is Josephine, and Jack Lemmon as Daphne, is just fantastic. And I'll be honest, I feel like it was quite obvious that they were men dressed as women, but apparently nobody else thought that. But at the same time, it would be quite rude to go up to somebody and go, hey, you're in an all-female band, but are you really a man? Like that, nowadays, that would be completely despicable. But I think even in 1959, not many people would actually do that. So generally, I feel like the characters look great. It does get confusing, well, complex, maybe not confusing, but it does get complex once the romantic aspect kicks in a bit more because we have people pretending to be somebody and then people pretending to be somebody else while pretending to be somebody else, and it sounds like it could get confusing, and honestly, I feel like it's played out very well. This is all in kind of the second half of the film onwards, and that's when I feel like things get more interesting. The more complex it gets, the more fascinating it becomes. And I don't like films that are overly complicated for no reason. Thankfully, that's not the case here. Everything feels like it was meant to happen. Everything plays out at a really good pace after we get past the really slow spell. I feel like it did take... Well, it started off quite quick. It got to the point really quickly. But then most of it was just conversations between Josephine and Daphne and Sugar for quite a while, and not a lot actually happened in terms of moving the narrative forward. And yeah, we need time to set the scene, to set the characters up, but too much time was spent doing that. But once that kind of went past and we moved on with the narrative, yeah, things got a little bit interesting and I quite liked it. So maybe I don't rate it quite as highly as some other people, but I can definitely see the appeal. The narrative is fairly interesting and generally decent at sustaining my attention. I loved the beach scenes. I don't know why particularly, because maybe they're not the most thrilling, but I rather enjoyed it. I think it's because I hadn't expected them. But definitely the performances, definitely from Marilyn Monroe gave a great performance, but Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon were just absolutely brilliant. The film is also an Oscar winner. It won Best Costume Design for Ori Kelly, and yeah, I think the costumes in this are definitely pretty fabulous. I enjoyed it. It may not be perfect for me, but I can see the appeal. It's the 129th top-rated movie on IMDb, which is pretty incredible. It's definitely one of those films you need to see before you die. Will I watch it again? I would probably never seek it out, but if I were, bored in a hotel room or something and it came on TV, I'd quite happily sit and watch this, particularly once the slow bits got over and done with. Some Like It Hot is maybe for me not as perfect as it is for some people, but I definitely enjoyed it and absolutely recommend it.